So today we're going to dive into a figure who is absolutely central to Islamic theology, Iblīs. But here's the plan. We're going to push aside all the folklore, all the later interpretations. Instead, we are going straight to the source material to build a portrait based entirely on the Quran and key prophetic traditions.
And we're going to kick things off with just a number. That's it. Just one number. But believe me, this number, it's the key that unlocks the entire story as it's laid out in Scripture.
11. That's it. The actual proper name, Iblīs, shows up just 11 times in the whole Quran. Now, I know what you might be thinking. 11? That's not a lot, is it? But here's the thing. Those 11 mentions, when you combine them with the key prophetic narrations, are all you need to build a surprisingly complete story of his origin, his mission, and his methods.
Okay, so where does it all start? Well, the whole thing really hinges on one single event, a moment of choice so monumental, so pivotal, that the Quran actually brings it up again and again.
This one act of defiance, it's the bedrock of his whole story. You see, when God commanded the angels, and Iblīs, who is right there among them, to prostrate to Adam, every single one of them obeyed, all except one. And this refusal is so central to who he is that the Quran recounts it in 7 different chapters, which you can see right here. This isn't some minor detail, you know? It's the moment that literally forges his entire identity.
All right, before we go any further, we have to get the name straight. This is super important. Iblīs, that's the name, the proper name of that one specific jinn who said no to God's command. Shaitan, on the other hand, that's more of a job title. It means the adversary, or the rebellious one. So while Iblīs is definitely the first and foremost shaitan, that title can also be used for any of his followers, human or jinn, who take up that same role of rebelling.
So here it is, the big question. Why? Why would he refuse a direct command from God? Well, the thing is, the scripture doesn't make us guess. It tells us exactly why, right from his own mouth.
And there it is. That one line says it all. You see, his fall wasn't just about breaking a rule. No, it was way deeper. It was pure arrogance. He declared himself superior based on what he was made of. Fire, in his mind, was way better than clay. You could even argue it's the first act of racism ever recorded, judging another being based entirely on their physical makeup.
And boom, that one moment, that little phrase, I am better, it changes everything. He's no longer just a worshiper among others in the divine presence. In that instant, he becomes the declared, eternal adversary of Adam and every single one of his descendants. His course is set.
So he's been cast out. He's got his new mission. Now what? How does he actually operate? And this is where it gets really fascinating, because the prophetic traditions paint this incredibly detailed and structured picture of his kingdom.
Yeah, this isn't just random mindless chaos. It's a full-on, organized campaign. According to one tradition, Iblīs sets up his throne on water, a symbol of a hidden, unstable domain. And from there, he sends out his armies, his tempters, with one mission: create chaos and discord between people. But get this, what's the biggest win in his book? What gets one of his minions the highest praise? It's not starting wars. It's not collapsing economies. It's separating a husband and wife. Think about that. He attacks society at its absolute core, the family.
Okay, so that's the big picture strategy. But how does this cosmic battle actually show up in our day-to-day lives? Well, the traditions describe some very specific personal tactics he uses. One of the most famous examples is this tactic called the 3 knots. The tradition says that while you're asleep, Shaitan comes and ties these 3 knots on the back of your head, and with each knot he whispers, "You have a long night, so sleep." The goal is really simple and direct: make you feel heavy, lazy, oversleep, and miss that crucial dawn prayer. It's a personal intervention aimed at a core act of worship.
But, and this is the best part, for every tactic he has, the texts give us a countermove. You're not just a helpless victim here. When you wake up and just remember God, the first knot comes undone. When you perform the ritual washing, the second knot breaks. And finally, when you stand up to pray, the third and final knot is gone. It's like a clear 3-step playbook to win that first battle of the day every single morning.
And this really shows you the strange paradox of his power. On one hand, his influence is described as being so intimate, so close. It's as if it circulates in your very bloodstream. But on the other hand, he's surprisingly fragile. He literally runs away at the sound of the call to prayer, only to creep back in to whisper distractions once it starts. And maybe the most powerful image of all, When a believer bows down in prostration while reciting Shaitan, Shaitan withdraws, weeping. Why? Because he's reminded of that one act of humility he refused to do, the act that sealed his own fate.
Okay, so we've seen the mission, the tactics, this constant daily struggle. So what's the final score? At the end of the day, how successful is Iblīs in his goal to lead humanity astray?
While the Quran itself gives a pretty blunt and sobering assessment, this verse says that the big bet Iblīs made about humanity, his assumption that we'd be weak, ungrateful, and easy to fool, well, for the most part, he was right. Most people followed him. Only a small group of true believers held firm. That's a really powerful thought to sit with, isn't it?
But the crucial thing to get here is that this isn't presented as some ancient story from a history book or a battle that's already over. No, it's framed as a live, ongoing reality for every single person, every single day. It's that constant tug of war between the whispers of temptation and the commitment to faith.
And that brings us to the final question we're left with. After seeing this scriptural portrait of an enemy who is arrogant, strategic, persistent, but who also has very clear weaknesses, how does that knowledge actually shape the daily consciousness, the choices, and the actions of a believer? How does it change the way you navigate your day?